Hey, you ever get that feeling? Like you're just sort of watching the days tick by.
Hmm.
You know the routine, right? Wake up, push through work, maybe scroll a bit on your phone, zone out with some TV.
And boom, it's bedtime again.
Exactly. Rinse and repeat. It's like being on this treadmill, isn't it? You're putting one foot in front of the other, sure, but are you actually going anywhere meaningful?
It's such a comfortable rhythm, though.
Yeah.
That's the tricky part. It feels normal.
Yeah, normal.
And it's interesting how quickly we can just settle into that. We adapt, often without even realizing we've kind of become passengers in our own lives.
Passengers, yeah, that's a good way to put it. And those things we used to be excited about, those, aspirations or sparks.
They start to feel a bit distant, like
Yeah.
fuzzy memories almost.
Right. And that feeling, that sense of being stuck or maybe just drifting, that's really what we want to dig into today.
We're hoping to help you see that cycle if you're in it.
Yeah, see it and then more importantly, figure out how to grab the steering wheel again, steer yourself towards something more fulfilling.
And we're not talking about huge, dramatic upheavals
Well, no,
necessarily.
no, not at all. It's about small things,
Mm.
small, deliberate changes, but changes that can genuinely, reshape how you experience your day-to-day life.
Because, and this is really key, isn't it? Making a change, deciding to do something different, it's always possible.
Always. It doesn't matter how long you feel you've been sort of stuck in that rut.
And you shouldn't underestimate the power of those small shifts. Seriously.
Tell me more about that. What kind of power?
Well, every time you consciously choose not to do that habitual thing,
Mhm.
the mindless scrolling, putting off that call every time you step away from those things that just kind of drain your time and focus,
Uh-huh.
it creates this ripple effect. You start to feel a bit more plugged in, more present.
Engaged, yeah.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And there's this real, like, tangible satisfaction that comes from reclaiming your time, reclaiming your attention. It builds this sense of agency, control over your own life.
Agency, I like that word.
Hmm.
And hey, for everyone listening who's also working on their English, think of this as a
Oh,
bonus.
definitely.
As we explore these ideas, about taking control, managing time better, living more intentionally, you're naturally going to bump into new ways of thinking about things.
New vocabulary, too.
Mm.
Different phrases, different ways to express these concepts.
It's all connected, really.
Yeah.
Improving your life, improving your English.
Yeah.
They can go hand in hand.
Which actually brings us to something pretty fascinating. This whole idea of timing, waiting for the right moment.
Ah, yes, the perfect moment.
We hear it all the time, don't we? Not just for big life stuff like
Mhm.
changing careers or moving house,
Right.
but also specifically with language learning. It's classic, oh, I'll start that big project, when things settle down at work.
Or start speaking English more, like really practice once I feel totally fluent.
Yeah. Exactly. That one. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is that genuine, like, strategic patience?
Hmm.
Or could it be something else? Could it actually be wasting time disguised as waiting?
Ooh, that's a really crucial distinction. It makes me think of someone like standing at a train station.
Okay.
They see all these trains going to amazing places, right? And they're thinking, okay, I'll go on that trip when I find the absolute perfect destination and the ideal travel buddy and the cheapest ticket.
Right. Ticking all the boxes.
But they never actually buy a ticket. They just stand there watching the trains leave, all that waiting, all that meticulous planning.
That opportunity just pulls out of the station without them.
Precisely. And in English learning, what's the ticket?
The ticket is actually doing it. It's participating, jumping in.
Even if it's messy.
Especially when it's messy. It's embracing the whole learning process. And yeah, that includes stumbling sometimes, making mistakes, that feeling of fluency. It's not some like destination you magically arrive at after waiting patiently.
So it's not like a waiting room where they call your number when you're fluent.
Not at all. It's a path. A
Mm.
path you literally build by walking it, by speaking, by engaging, even when it feels awkward or, a bit uncomfortable.
You don't wait to feel fluent before you start speaking.
No. It's the act of speaking itself with all the imperfections, the ums and ahs, the grammar mistakes. That's what grows your fluency over time. It's the practice.
Okay, okay. So we've kind of sketched out the big picture, this autopilot feeling, the waiting trap. But let's maybe zoom in a bit. What are some of the sneakier ways time just evaporates, ways we don't even really notice.
Yeah, the subtle stuff. It's quite amazing, actually, how these tiny little moments, these seemingly insignificant things can add up.
They accumulate,
They
right?
really do.
Yeah.
The huge chunks of lost time, lost potential. We tend to focus on the big, obvious time wasters, maybe binge watching a whole series or something.
Right, the glaring ones.
But often, the real culprits are much smaller. That
Yeah.
endless scroll through your social media feed.
Just one more post.
Uh-huh. Or that reflexive phone check every 5 minutes. Did I get a notification? What's happening?
Guilty.
Or even just putting off those small, necessary tasks, like, oh, I'll reply to that email later. I'll make that phone call tomorrow.
Yeah, the tiny postponements.
Individually, they seem like nothing, right? Just a brief distraction, a minor delay.
Pennies of time, maybe, not dollars.
Exactly. But think about it like a tiny, slow leak in a bike tire.
Okay.
You might not even notice the air escaping at first. The pressure drop is tiny. But you leave it overnight or for a few days.
And you come back to a flat tire. Useless.
Totally flat. And those little time leaks are the same. How many times have you picked up your phone just to check, I don't know, the weather?
Happens all the time.
And then suddenly you look up and whoosh, 20 minutes, half an hour, just vanished. Gone into the digital void.
The ether, yeah. It's almost hypnotic sometimes.
It is. And look, we need to be clear here. This isn't about like shaming relaxation or saying you need to be productive every single second. That's not healthy either.
No, downtime is crucial.
Absolutely. It's more about cultivating awareness.
Yeah, right.
Just noticing. Where's my time actually going? Where is my energy, my focus being directed? Because it's finite, right? We only have so much each day.
So how do you cultivate that awareness? It sounds good, but how?
Well, here's something you could try. It sounds simple, maybe even a bit tedious, but it can be incredibly revealing.
Okay, I'm listening.
Just track your time. Maybe not for a whole day, that's overwhelming. But just for 1 hour? Pick an hour, maybe one where you tend to feel unfocused.
An hour. Okay.
And be brutally honest with yourself. Write down everything you do in that hour. Every time you check your phone, every website you visit, every time you get up to make coffee, every little distraction.
Even the quick glances.
Especially the quick glances. Note it all down. You might be genuinely shocked, really surprised by how many of those tiny leaks you find in just 60 minutes.
I can already imagine being surprised and probably a little horrified.
It can be eye-opening, but it's not about judgment. It's about data. Information you can then use to make more conscious choices.
Okay, that leads to something else I've noticed, something tricky. It's when our own feelings, like anxiety or insecurity kind of, disguise themselves as being productive.
Oh, yes. That's a big one. The illusion of progress.
Totally. I know I've done this. Spending hours, like meticulously planning a project, creating these super elaborate spreadsheets or organizing notes with fancy color coding systems.
Researching every single possible angle, reading every article ever written on the topic.
Right. It feels like you're working hard. It feels like progress. You're busy. You're engaged.
But are you actually moving the needle on the core task? That feeling of being intensely busy, but without actually making forward momentum, it's incredibly common.
It's like spinning your wheels in mud, lots of effort, lots of noise, no actual distance covered.
Precisely. And think about it in the English learning context. You might see someone spending, countless hours researching the perfect grammar textbook.
Oh yeah, the quest for the magic book.
Or, making these incredibly detailed flashcards with, every single obscure vocabulary word imaginable. Hours and hours spent preparing to learn.
Preparing, but not actually doing.
Exactly. They never quite get around to the messy part, actually trying to speak or writing an email or joining a conversation group, those real-world applications.
It reminds me of standing by a swimming pool on a really hot day.
Okay, another analogy. Let's hear it.
You really want to jump in, cool off, but instead of just jumping, you spend ages testing the water temperature with your toe, analyzing the chlorine levels, reading online reviews of different swimming strokes, checking the weather forecast again. Meanwhile, everyone else is already in the pool, splashing around, having fun, actually getting refreshed, all that excessive preparation, all that analysis.
It can just be a very subtle way to avoid things, avoidance.
Yeah, a way to feel like you're in control, feel like you're doing something useful.
Without actually facing the potential discomfort or the vulnerability of just jumping in, just engaging with the task itself, whether it's swimming or speaking English.
So that raises a really important question then. How do we tell the difference? How do we know if our preparation is genuinely necessary or if it's just fear wearing a productivity mask?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think a key indicator, a really practical one, is whether the planning consistently leads to action, tangible action.
Okay. So does the plan get put into practice?
Yeah. If you find yourself perpetually planning your English study schedule, refining your flashcard system, researching language partners, but you rarely actually speak English with anyone,
That's a red flag.
that's a pretty significant clue, I'd say.
Yeah.
That's probably that underlying anxiety, that fear of making mistakes, whispering in your ear, hang on, just prepare a little bit more. You're not quite ready yet. Just one more video.
Not ready yet. The perpetual state of almost readiness.
And you deserve better than that. You deserve to actually experience the thing you're preparing for.
Okay, so actionable step time. Let's give people something concrete.
Good idea.
If you're learning English and maybe you recognize that pattern of over-planning, try this today. Just consciously resist the urge to plan the perfect, all-encompassing study session.
Forget perfect for now.
Exactly. Instead, just commit right now to saying one complete sentence in English out loud.
Just one.
Just one. It doesn't have to be grammatically flawless. It doesn't need to be deep or profound. Just string some words together and say them.
The power isn't in the sentence itself, necessarily.
No. The power is in breaking that initial barrier, taking that one tiny concrete step, moving from planning to doing.
Because the longer you put off that first action, that first spoken sentence,
The bigger the fear gets.
yeah, that underlying fear, that hesitation, it can kind of amplify. And then taking that leap feels even more daunting later on.
It becomes this huge monster in your head.
Exactly. And this links really nicely to another subtle way we can, well, inadvertently let time slip away.
Which,
Staying put. Staying inside the familiar territory of our comfort zones for too long.
the comfort zone. It sounds so nice, doesn't it? Cozy, safe.
Predictable.
Yeah.
Like that favorite armchair you mentioned earlier, maybe in a quiet corner.
Yeah, exactly. But what's the downside? What happens if you just settle too deeply into that armchair, day after day, week after week, maybe even year after year?
Well, what's interesting is how that feeling, that initial sense of safety and comfort, can gradually change. It can morph into a limitation.
How so?
The boundaries of your world, the things you experience, the things you feel capable of doing, they can start to shrink. Unnoticeably at first, maybe.
Like the walls closing in?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Like that cozy room we talked about. It feels inviting at first. But stay there too long, never open the windows, never venture out, and eventually the air gets stale. It starts to feel confining, not comfortable. You realize you're trapped, not cozy.
That's a powerful image. And thinking about English learning again, that comfort zone could be, what, sticking only to things that feel easy.
Absolutely. It might mean, for instance, consistently avoiding any chance to speak because you're worried about making mistakes. You feel safer just listening or reading.
Which are important skills, obviously.
Of course, passive skills are valuable. But if that's all you do, if you never push yourself to actually produce the language, to participate in a real conversation,
You're staying in the armchair.
you're staying in the armchair. And the longer you put off stepping outside that zone,
Yeah.
even just a little, even with, imperfect English,
The harder it gets.
it often feels harder, yeah. Because that fear, that hesitation about potentially messing up or sounding silly, it rarely just disappears on its own if you keep avoiding the situation. It often grows.
So avoidance feeds the fear.
In many cases, yes.
Yeah.
So the challenge then becomes deliberately nudging yourself, pushing the edges of that comfort zone just a little.
Not a giant leap, maybe, just a nudge.
Exactly. Small, manageable steps. So if English is your focus, maybe try this. Learn just one new phrase today, something that feels slightly beyond your current level.
Okay, one phrase. Maybe a bit more complex, or an idiom.
Yeah, something that stretches you just a tiny bit. And this is the crucial part. Make a conscious effort to use it.
Use it how?
In a real situation.
Yeah.
Maybe in a conversation, maybe in a text message or an email. But use it today.
Not tomorrow, not after you've practiced it 50 times in your head.
Nope. Today. The goal is to bridge that gap between knowing and doing, even if it feels a little awkward at first. Nudge the boundary.
Oh, okay, I like that. Small nudges. And while we're talking about time slipping away, maybe while we're sitting too comfortably, what about our bigger goals? Our aspirations? What happens to those if we just keep putting them off?
That's a really important connection to make. Our dreams, our long-term goals. They aren't just static things sitting patiently on a shelf somewhere, waiting for us.
They need attention.
They need engagement.
Yeah.
They need, nourishment, our attention, our effort. That's what keeps them alive and vibrant. If you don't actively, proactively move towards them.
They don't just stay the same.
Rarely. More often, they start to fade. They lose their sharpness, their clarity. Their pull on us weakens.
It's not usually a big, dramatic moment like throwing a dream in the bin.
No, it's usually much quieter than that. It's a slow erosion, no big warning signs, just a gradual dimming.
It makes me think of fruit again, like having a perfect, ripe peach.
Okay.
You're really looking forward to eating it, but you think, I'll save it. I'll have it tomorrow. Or maybe later in the week when you can really savor it.
Right. Postpone the gratification.
But tomorrow becomes the next day, then the weekend, and eventually you remember the peach, you go to get it, and...
It's gone soft.
Yeah.
Spoiled. Maybe even moldy.
Exactly. The moment passed. The opportunity to enjoy it at its peak is just gone.
And our aspirations, our bigger goals, can be very much like that. If you're putting in the time and effort to learn English because you dream of, say, traveling confidently.
Or connecting with people from different cultures.
Or opening up new career doors.
Yeah.
Please, please don't just file that dream away under someday.
Keep it alive.
Yes. Even a tiny action today, 5 minutes practicing pronunciation, learning one new travel-related phrase, watching a short travel vlog in English. Anything that connects you to that dream helps keep it alive, keeps it tangible.
Because dreams don't usually die from failure, do they?
That's a great point. They're much more likely to wither away from delay, from inaction, from being constantly put off until later.
Okay. Another concrete step then. Let's keep these coming.
Right. Try this. Take a moment, maybe right after listening to this, and write down one specific English-related dream or goal you have.
Make it specific, you said.
Yeah, not just get better at English. Something concrete like, I want to be able to confidently order food in English at a restaurant.
Okay. Or maybe I want to understand the main plot points of my favorite English TV show without needing subtitles.
Perfect. Something tangible like that. Write it down, and then immediately after writing it, take one small action.
Immediately.
Immediately. Even if it feels a bit messy or imperfect. Just one small thing that moves you, even an inch, towards that specific dream.
So if the goal is ordering food, maybe look up the menu online for a local restaurant and practice saying the names of the dishes.
Great example. Or if it's the TV show, watch just a 2-minute clip without subtitles, even if you don't catch everything.
Send a quick message in English to a language exchange partner you haven't contacted in a while.
Yes. Anything that represents forward movement, however small. Connect the dream to an action right now.
Because ultimately, and this feels like a really critical point we need to land, nobody else is going to do it for you.
Bingo. No external force, no magic wand is going to suddenly rescue you from this cycle of wasted time or postponed action.
Not a specific teacher, however great they are.
Nope.
Not a particular app or learning method. Not even listening to this deep dive as much as we hope it helps.
Exactly. We can offer ideas, maybe some encouragement, different perspectives, but the actual doing, the responsibility, and therefore the power, that rests entirely with you.
You're the captain of your own ship, that old saying.
You are. And you're also the crew. You're the one who has to hoist the sails, navigate the waves.
It's your hand on the rudder, choosing the course.
It's your voice that needs to actually practice forming those new English sounds and sentences.
And it's your courage that has to show up, isn't it? Even when you feel unsure or worried about making mistakes or just not ready.
It is. And I know that level of personal responsibility might sound a bit heavy or daunting at first.
Yeah, it can feel like a lot of pressure.
But here's the flip side, which is incredibly empowering. If you are the one steering, if the power rests with you,
then you can change course anytime.
Exactly. You inherently have the capacity, the ability to change your direction, to make different choices at any moment you decide to. That's not pressure. That's freedom. That's incredibly liberating, isn't it?
Yeah, reframed like that, it really is. It puts the control back in your hands.
Totally. So be your own champion. Be your own advocate in this.
Yeah. What does that look like practically?
Maybe take just a few minutes today, grab a notebook or open a file, and write a short journal entry in English.
Okay. What about?
Doesn't have to be a literary masterpiece. Just a simple reflection. How was your day? How are you feeling? What are your thoughts on this whole process of learning English?
Just getting thoughts down on paper in English.
Yeah. Think of it as like a little note of encouragement to your future self. Acknowledge the effort you're making. Recognize the progress, even the tiny steps you're consciously taking today, because you listen to this.
Cheer yourself on, basically.
Exactly. You are your own most important cheerleader in this journey. Give yourself some credit.
Okay. So, taking responsibility, being your own cheerleader, taking those first steps, this all seems to be pointing towards a really fundamental idea about growth, doesn't it?
It does, which is
That taking action consistently is basically the best way to avoid feeling regret later on.
regret. Yes. That's such a powerful and often preventable emotion. Consistent action is the antidote.
It rings so true for me. When I look back at times I felt really disappointed, like properly regretful. It's almost never because I tried something and it didn't quite work out.
Right. Failure or setbacks are usually learning experiences.
Exactly. The real sting comes from the things I didn't try. The opportunities I let slide because I hesitated or doubted myself or waited too long. The paths not taken.
And regret often starts small, doesn't it? It's not usually a sudden event. It's more like a subtle whisker, a little nagging feeling you can ignore for a while.
Like dust settling.
Yeah, that's a good image. It accumulates gradually, almost invisibly, in the corners of your mind. You can kind of sweep it under the rug for a bit.
But eventually.
Eventually you look around and realize, wow, a lot of dust has settled. Or, wow, a lot of time has actually passed and I haven't really moved forward on that thing I said was important to me.
And the key insight there is that the regret rarely comes from the imperfect things you did do.
Almost never. It almost always comes from the inaction, the things you didn't do, the chances you didn't take, the words you didn't speak.
Which is exactly why even messy action, imperfect movement, even slightly clumsy first steps, why they're so incredibly valuable.
They break the cycle of inaction. They generate momentum.
Yeah, they create energy, don't they? A feeling of being engaged, involved. It makes you feel more alive somehow.
There's that saying, motion beats meditation.
I like that. Explain it.
Well, you can spend hours, days, weeks thinking about improving your English, meditating on the perfect study plan, visualizing fluency.
All right, the mental preparation.
Which has its place, sure. But often deciding to just do something, right now, like saying one sentence out loud, like we suggested earlier,
That motion.
that motion, however small, often does more to build confidence and create a sense of progress than all the hours of just thinking about it. The action itself is powerful.
It cuts through the overthinking.
Precisely. And here's a really, really valuable point, specifically for anyone learning English right now. You absolutely do not need to wait until you feel 100% completely, totally ready before you start speaking more or writing more or putting yourself out there.
That feeling of ready, it's elusive, isn't it?
It's often a mirage. It's not some fixed state you achieve by just passively waiting for the confidence fairy to arrive.
The confidence fairy.
I wish.
Right.
Readiness, confidence, it's something you actively build.
Yeah.
You cultivate it through doing the thing, through consistent engagement and practice, especially when it feels a bit scary or nerve-wracking at first.
You build readiness by being ready, in a way, by acting as if you're ready.
That's a great way to put it. Act your way into feeling confident. Don't wait to feel confident before you act.
Okay. Love it. So let's wrap this up with one final, very straightforward task for people to do today.
Let's make it super practical.
Right. Get out your phone, open the voice recorder app,
Okay.
and record a short voice note, like 30 seconds max in English.
30 seconds. What should they talk about?
Absolutely anything. Seriously. A quick summary of your day so far, what you had for breakfast, what you're planning for the weekend, even just talking about how you feel about learning English right now.
The topic doesn't really matter.
Not really. The specific content is way less important than the simple act of doing it. Pressing record and speaking.
And the key is?
Try not to overthink it. Don't get hung up on perfect pronunciation in the moment. Don't analyze your grammar while you're speaking. Just talk, get the words out.
And then what? Listen back critically.
You can save it, sure. Listen back later if you want to notice things, that's fine. But the real win, the real victory, it happened the moment you stopped recording.
The victory is in the action itself.
Yes, you took a step, you engaged actively with the language, and by doing that, you chipped away at that potential for future regret. You chose action.
Every single small step you consciously take, every time you choose to do something instead of nothing. It's like a powerful statement, isn't it?
What's it saying?
It's saying, I'm not willing to just let my time, my life, slip away unnoticed.
Yeah.
It's saying, I'm actively investing in myself, in my present, and in building a better future.
And specifically for our listeners, it's also saying, I am making real tangible progress on my English journey right now.
Absolutely. One voice note, one sentence, one nudge outside the comfort zone at a time.
Couldn't agree more. And just to reiterate, please remember, this whole process, this idea of choosing to live actively rather than just waiting passively. It's not about some huge overnight transformation. Forget that pressure.
It's the small things adding up.
It's the cumulative effect. Those
Yeah.
consistent, small, deliberate steps, they build on each other. So maybe the real question to leave you with is this. What one small step, just one, will you choose to take today?
That really is the core message we hope resonates. It's about recognizing the power you already have, embracing that agency.
You can initiate change.
You absolutely
Yeah.
can right now, in this moment. And realizing that, really internalizing it, it's incredibly freeing. You don't have to wait for some perfect future condition that may never arrive.
You can start living the life you want bit by bit starting today.
Exactly.
So please, stop waiting. Start living. That time you have, it's so incredibly precious. It's irreplaceable.
It really is.
And it is yours. Yours to shape, yours to use with intention. Every little action you take, every conscious choice, it's a refusal to waste it. It's an investment in you.
You're actively creating your future with every small step.
Well said.
Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us for this deep dive today. We really genuinely appreciate you spending this time with us thinking through these ideas.
Yeah, thank you. We truly hope this conversation sparked something for you. Maybe some useful insights, but more than that, maybe some practical, doable actions you can take away and start using, well, right now, today.